Please enter meeting ID 960-208-61136. And I believe we now have a quorum, and with that, we can call the roll.
Commissioner Bush, Commissioner Cavateo, Commissioner Kraut, Commissioner London.
Here from Ann Arbor. No, I'm actually in Ypsilanti today. Thanks.
Commissioner Marson.
I'm here in Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Montague.
Here from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Perlowski.
Here in Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Skyless.
Here in Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Smith. Councilmember Radina. Councilmember Watson.
I think we have Councilmember Watson.
Yep, I see him here. Yep, there we go. So you have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much. We now will move to the approval of our agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to our agenda today? Hearing none, we'll move into our first public comment period. The members of the Parks Advisory Commission really appreciate folks calling in for public comment. We don't respond in the moment, but we're always extremely happy to hear what folks have to say to us. And each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. And certainly we invite that. Do we have any callers on the line at this point? No callers.
All right. Two guests in the queue. If you are calling in for public commentary, please raise your hand and we will allow you into the meeting to speak.
They're presenters for later, so we have no public callers.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you both. And we'll have another public commentary session at the end of our meeting. At this point, we will move to approval of our minutes from February 27th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I saw Rachel's hand first. Do we have a second? And is that a second as well? Perfect. Motion by Rachel, second by Ann. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signal by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And now we move to our presentation section. We have 3 presentations today. The first is an update on the pools, and I think we have Gail, Sarah, and Carly here to discuss those with us. So thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. My name is Gail Hearn. I am the recreation supervisor at Fuller and Mac Pools. And I'll let Carly and Sarah or Scott, I'm not sure entirely who's going to be following me, but introduce themselves when they start their part of the presentation. So today I'm going to give you an update on Mac Pool and just sort of like a year in review so far. And then I'll move to Fuller Pool and then hand it over. So Mac Pool has been really busy this year so far. We have given a lot of private lessons. We've had a huge demand for private lessons. And these numbers, so right now we've given over 900 private lessons and we're looking to end the season with over 1,300. And that is up from between 200 at this time and 400 ending the season last year. So our spring is usually one of our busiest times because people are trying to get ready for their kids to be out in the water during the summer. So that's been really active. You'll see our master's program is pretty active as well. And those numbers are growing after the pandemic. We saw a dip in those numbers, but we're starting to see that program re-emerge with lots of adult swimmers. And that's really exciting. That program is headed up by a gentleman named Kevin Dillon. He's done a phenomenal job bringing that program back to folks. You'll see we've been very busy with general swimmers, which, you know, at MAC is challenging because there's limited pool time but we try to make the most out of it. So you'll see we've had over 1,300 general admission swimmers and lots of group swim lesson participants. We also have sort of changed our structure for regular access from a season pass to a punch pass. And one of the reasons that we did this was so that anyone in a family could use the same punch pass. So it wasn't just designated for one person, or if somebody wanted to bring a friend, if their kids are having a play date and they want to bring their friends, they can use the punch passes for them. So we've seen an uptick in punch pass use, actually almost doubled, which is really great. We are excited to have lots of folks in the pool. Probably the biggest highlight from this year at MAC is our swim team. In the fall, we had a swim session where we had a record number of swimmers, 161, which we were really excited about. That was up from 114 the previous fall. That was a record for us, yay. And then coming into the winter, we beat even that, which surprised us even more, with 173 swimmers. And that was up from our previous high of 139. So lots of folks in the pool, a really wide range of swimmers, right from our lap swimmers and families coming for general swim to our master swimmers, our swim lesson participants, and our swim team. So kind of the whole gamut is growing. I do want to take a second to highlight one of our phenomenal staff. We really are nothing without our seasonal and temporary staff. And Lorenzo Melendez is our head swim coach for the Ann Arbor Octopods. He is really the reason that the program is growing and has been so successful. He has been working for the last 3 years with us, came on as a lifeguard and swim instructor, and I really, pushed him into being a swim coach. And he has really grown and shown a ton of leadership. The families and the kids love him. And as you can see, he has really grown the program. And the highlight actually came this weekend when we won the Southeast Michigan Swim League Championships for the first time in our 10-year history, which was really exciting. And we won by over 400 points, which is pretty phenomenal. So kudos to Lorenzo. He is really fantastic. Just some recent updates and highlights. So we got new lane lines at Mac Pool, which was very needed with all the usage. Like I said, we won the championship in our swim league. And we actually started a new spring octopod session, which we thought was just going to be a small thing to keep kids in the water and work on stroke technique. We already have 100 swimmers registered, which is really exciting. We started adult group swim lessons this year and have served 27 adult swimmers. And these are like very beginner, a lot of them very afraid of the water. So really trying to reach a new group of swimmers and get them into our spaces. We are offering a women's only swim this year from 5 to 6 on Saturdays. Once again, serving some folks in the community that do not feel comfortable swimming with men in the space. And so giving opportunity for them. We also are piloting an aqua infants class, which is a drop-in class for folks who have babies that are a year or younger. And that just is a little more flexible for what we know to be a challenging season for adults when they have little babies. And sometimes they're not well enough to come every week to swim lessons. So this gives them an opportunity to socialize in the water, once again, expanding the folks that have access. And then we've changed our swim lessons a little bit to serve our 3- and 4-year-old swimmers a little bit better. So what we found was that they were not progressing enough in our what was our lower level course because they were with 5-year-olds. And if you know anything about child development, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in terms of their abilities are very different. So we're really trying to focus on that preschool age swimmer and offering a smaller class size, but once again, expanding opportunities for swimmers in the pool. So that's the highlights from MAC. And then I'm going to switch to Fuller Pool, which is actually, the season is coming quickly, but I'm going to sort of highlight where we were last year. So last year, we also had a banger year for our private swim lessons. In the summer, we gave over 1,000 private lessons. And this year, it's looking like those numbers will expand. with our increased number of swim instructors, and we will be offering private lessons 7 days a week, both throughout the day and into the evening, especially for some of those folks who work, so they can have more access. We had lots of group lesson participants, and I think really the highlight from our summer is our day camp. We had 705 day camp participants last year. This year we have one last week, but we're looking at having over 800 participants. And we're really excited with the growth of that program. One of the key highlights of that program is that we give all day camp participants swim lessons throughout their experience. So we're trying to build swimmers in every way we possibly can. And so making that as accessible to people as possible. And as you can see, lots and lots of visitors. This is the highest number of visitors that we've had definitely since the pandemic, but even before that. So 43,000 visitors in 2023. My staff highlight for Fuller Pool is Art Caldwell. He is my day camp director. I actually met Art when he was in high school and I was recruiting at Huron High School, and I convinced him to come be a cashier for me. And he ended up being a cashier and then becoming a camp counselor, and then went away from us, came back and decided that he wanted to be more involved with camp and became our camp director last year. Just a phenomenal human being. He's 6'8", so the kids adore him and they think he's so cool, and he is really cool. And he really has just created such a safe and warm place for our staff and for our campers, and is really a great role model for them. And I just adore him so much. And so I'm super grateful. He will be returning this summer with us. And just some recent updates for us. We have some new deck furniture. As everybody knows, my goal has always been to create a public space that feels like you have access to a private space. Because we know not every person can afford a private pool, if we can make our public pool feel like that luxurious experience, then we are winning, because everybody deserves that experience. So new furniture on the pool deck. We have built more day camp sheds. So with our day camp growing, if you come to Fuller, you'll see the rainbow sheds at the end of our pool that house our day camp kids, and it creates a really meaningful space for them for our programming. We will also have new lane lines at Fuller this year, and really excited to sort of fill a niche that has not been a possibility for us. We will be offering drop-in water polo for adults Tuesdays and Thursdays during the summer. And actually, to start the season off, we're going to offer clinics for adults who maybe have never played water polo but are interested in trying, or have seen it in the Olympics or seen it here and there. We have a really strong water polo community, but for adults, there just is not a lot out there in terms of drop in, just pick up, have fun in the pool. So we tested it out last summer and it was a real big hit. So we're going to relaunch it as a full summer program, similar to our drop-in masters program. And then last, something small that people might not realize has such a huge impact is that we added some small shelters at the end of our lap lanes to cover the hooks on the fence so that our lap swimmers' gear can stay dry when it's raining, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but lap swimmers will swim rain or shine, pouring rain, in fact, but their gear hanging on the fence, including their towel, always gets wet. So we're trying to offer them an option that's right there for them, but will keep their gear dry and just make the experience a little bit better. So those are the updates for Fuller, and I'm going to pass it on to Carly. And I think, Carly, you're going to talk about the kindness campaign, right?
I don't know. Yes. So last year, the last couple of years, really, we've started a kindness campaign just to encourage both staff and our patrons that use all of the pools to use kindness. Makes a happier, more positive experience for everyone. These pictures are some of the posters and pictures that we have hanging around all 3 facilities. And they just kind of brighten up everybody's day. All right. All right, and then Bird Park Pool. My name is Carly. I am the new recreation supervisor for Bird Park as of last May. Before that, I was a temporary employee for the last 10 years. And I worked at the Fuller and Mac. All right, next slide. So Bird Pool by the numbers. In 2023, a total of 22,765 people visited Bird Park. This number includes all of our programs, so our swim lessons, swim team, day camp, and then our general swimmers and rental groups. In 2023, we had 194 private swim lessons that were given. This is up 100 compared to last summer season or summer 2022 season. We had 177 group lesson participants and 405 participants during the 9 weeks that we had day camp. We're excited because we're gonna have more campers this season. And then to highlight a staff member at Bird Park, I wanted to shout out Cameron Schmidt, who is an assistant recreation supervisor. Cameron's first year at Bird Park was last season, but before coming onto that, he worked with Park Ops and the Ann Arbor Police. He jumped right into the summer season last year, which was extremely helpful, and has been focused on facility maintenance and ensuring the community and staff have a safe and positive experience. He has a great attitude at work and is always willing to help whenever is needed, and has helped out at a couple of the other facilities too. So some recent upgrades and improvements. Last spring, the infrastructure for the top pool was repaired, and then towards the end of last season, we had some issues with the pool liner in the top pool. So that's been repaired this year, and we're excited to welcome families back to the top pool for the 2024 season. A new windscreen along the pool fence and new lane lines have been added to Burr, which we're really excited about. And then last summer, the main pool pump was also replaced. And then to some program updates this season, we are excited to offer evening practices for octopods. This is super exciting because it opens up opportunities for swim team families or swim team to families who may not have been able to attend the morning practices. So it's just another step in being more inclusive. And then going into the season, we've been exploring ways to utilize the pool more, and we're excited to offer more public swim opportunities.
Okay, and I'm going to be talking about Veterans Memorial Park and Pool. Right now, we do not have a facility supervisor at Veterans Memorial Park, Pool, and Ice Rink. As you can see, you might have seen it behind me, but the Zamboni was going around. I'm at the rink right now. So just a quick update. We conducted the second round of interviews for the facility supervisor. We're hoping to have that person on board very soon, and we will get up and running for the pool season. But just some numbers from last year. Yeah, over 37,000 general admission swimmers, 150 group or private lessons, and 220 group lessons, and we had 120 swim team participants in octopods. And our staff highlight is Peter Florence. Peter's worked at Vets for a while. This year he has also helped out at the ice rink. And a fun fact, he is a member of the University of Michigan Marching Band, and he's going to be spending 6 weeks in Rome this summer. I just learned that today. And one other small thing, like new lane lines are a big thing because we are also getting new lane lines at vets. So that makes all 3 outdoor facilities. We're getting all 4 pools. We're getting new lane lines this year. So, and Carly is going to talk about swim team.
Yeah, so some of the aquatic programming improvements, in regards to swim lessons, both Vets and Burr are gonna have 2 sessions. And both sessions at Vets, it's gonna be Mondays and Wednesdays, and Burr's Tuesdays, Thursdays. Along with the evening swim team options, Vets is going to offer evening swim lessons, which is also super exciting because this will allow more people who work during the day to use our evening swim lessons. All 3 pools have really worked on optimizing the pool space and increasing what we can offer. And then we are really excited to be working with all 3 pools more as a team instead of 3 individual pools. So we will have staff, all city staff or pool staff trainings. And this will allow us to have a consistent experience for both the staff and people visiting the pool. And then it will allow us to kind of help out when there are shortages at a certain facility. And then I don't know if Gail wants to say anything else about the swim lessons.
No, I think overall, as you can see, like throughout this entire presentation, our sole goal is to give as many people access to aquatics as possible. And we are continuing to explore more and more ways to do that. We know that swimming is an essential skill. It is a life-saving skill. And, you know, if we can get more people into the water and comfortable and safe, then we are serving our community in the best way possible. So we are really excited to work together towards that goal and continue to really make Ann Arbor a really safe and wonderful place for people to enjoy outdoor recreation. So thank you so much for having us.
I would like to add that Gail and Carly, in the past, some of these pools have been kind of operated as their own separate facility, and there wasn't a lot of consistency across the system. And in the last couple of years, both Gail and Carly and Sarah, who isn't able to be here today, they've worked really hard to make it so that it is a consistent product across the system. And they've done a lot of work on everything at the pools. So.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely presentation. I wanted to quickly comment that I think it's wonderful the outreach that you have done to different sectors of the population who may not be able to enjoy the pools in a certain way or may not feel comfortable enjoying them in a certain way, but are able to experience the pools in a way that you've now made available to them. I really appreciate the efforts in that regard. Do we have questions for the team? Anne, right away, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for this great presentation and for running great pools here in Ann Arbor. And I just wanted to say thank you for the evening hours for the swim lessons, and the swim team just sound fantastic. My kids are all grown up now, would have loved that when they were kids. And also thank you for providing a great place for some of the young folks in our community to work. And teaching them some good life skills about how to show up on time to jobs and how to be responsible for other human beings. I very much appreciate that about the pool. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments for the team? All right, well, thank you all so much.
Lauren, before we go, I want to take the opportunity. I mean, Scott mentioned it briefly, but the work that Gail and Carly and Sarah have done to kind of embrace a departmental look at our aquatic program, it has been greatly appreciated. Gail hit it on the head. I mean, we do a lot of service in our community through our park system, and I don't know that any are as valuable as teaching people how to swim. There are things that I have visions for in regards to our swim program and what we can do to better that. But in the meantime, I know that Gail and Carly and the new vet supervisor that will be coming in are going to take their opportunity to get as many kids, adults, teens in the water as much as they can. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank staff publicly for all the great work that they do, because the summers at the pools are busy. There's a lot going on, and I have faith in those staff to do what's right for the right reasons every single day. So thank you.
I also just wanted to comment a little bit on the Octopods swim team. It sounded like there's some good news there from the competitive perspective, but also I know that this was the first year, right, with the combined teams, and it sounds like that all worked out for the best. So I'm really proud of that effort, and I'm glad that things are going well for those teams and for the kids that are transitioning from the vets team to the combined team now. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Great to have you. I think we will now turn to our next presentation, which has to do with the Merrifield Wildwood Drain Project. And I believe Chris Ellenboss is here to talk about that with us. Hey, Chris, how are you? Can you hear us?
Good.
Okay?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Yes. Glad to be here. So yeah, Chris Ellenboss, I'm from OHM Advisors, but really here today, I'm representing City of Ann Arbor's engineering unit for this project. I was looking back, I actually presented to PAC August of 2000 on this project, and it has kind of dragged out quite a bit here. So really just want to, the project's finally going to construction, so just want to kind of walk everyone through what's involved, make sure you guys don't have any questions. And yeah, so I am going to share my screen here. All righty. So are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I guess this project really has two names, and it goes through the Merrifield Wildwood Park, but Lynn Ann Arbana Sewer is what we're calling it to the public. Internal to the city, it has been called the Huron West Park Sanitary Sewer. So if you've heard of it, just wanted to make sure that's out there. But basically 4,300 feet of sanitary sewer that's going to get replaced, upsized. So the sewer right now is undersized and at risk of overflow. And in terms of the park, it runs right through the middle of Merrifield Wildwood Park. It's a continuation of past projects kind of through West Park. And on the east side of Arbana, there has been projects in the 90s and early 2000s up to this point. And we're kind of continuing the expansion of sanitary sewer capacity. But if anyone is kind of familiar with the area, we're basically just north of Huron and Dexter, and this is kind of a key natural corridor also. And certainly that's been taken into consideration during the design of this project. The construction of this is being funded through the city's development offset mitigation program. So just kind of heads up on overview of the project here. We're looking at this route, which basically takes us through from Arbana basically through to Ravenna, and that's where you have the start of Merrifield Wildwood Park with the natural area kind of between Wildwood and Ravenna, and then the main park area from Westwood to Wildwood. Like I said, there's actually two sewers that follow this existing route, one sanitary sewer, and then the county also maintains county storm sewer as well through the same route. There's really a few main impacts that I just want to go through, kind of talk through on this, and what we're doing to mitigate it. So the park does kind of represent kind of the middle of the project. So we will be using the large field that's in the middle portion of the park as a staging area during this project. I anticipate that the staging area is going to be set up in the first week of April, and it'll pretty much be there through the end of the year, so all of 2024. The sewer construction itself basically goes through the middle of the park. We are doing several things to try to mitigate our impacts. So under the basketball court, the playground, we will be installing the sewer with a trenchless installation. So basically the court, the playground, the trees that surround that area, kind of key point in the park, we're not going to be impacting that. As we look to the trails, so on the eastern area of the park, eastern side of the field, we will be open cutting that sewer. And there are a handful of tree removals. And I'm going to touch on kind of the overall tree removal kind of setup in a minute. But yeah, we basically follow the trail, the low spot of the park there. The bold orange line is our proposed sewer. The other lines you can see in here are actually existing sanitary, and
Hey,
existing
Chris.
storm sewer. Yeah.
So I can only see your first slide.
Oh,
So
let me.
there we go. Now I
Okay.
can see that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm in presentation mode, but apparently it's on the wrong screen. I apologize for that.
No problem. Everything made sense for a while, but now you're getting into talking about your colors, and I should jump in.
Okay. I'll do it that way. So yeah, so I was talking about the staging area. I'm assuming you can see it now, right, Josh? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the large open field, we're going to use the staging area, trenchless installation under the basketball court. Kind of as you go, there's a trail that kind of goes through into kind of the lower area of the park. This park actually 80 years ago, 100 years ago, was used as kind of a landfill, an old dump, kind of is what makes up this field. But then as you go further east, down into the ravine or the lower areas, that's where we're going to be installing the sewer by open cut. This imagery, I pulled this from my past presentation to PAC. There are a few areas that we've elected to now actually construct with additional trenchless installation that we, so we're going to be saving this group of trees. And then we connect under Wildwood and kind of over into the natural area portion of the park. There's really no public access on this side to the east of Wildwood here. And again, we're just kind of running through the low portion of the park on that side. We're also doing a small area of trenchless installation. There was one key oak tree, 504 here, that we're going to be saving with an area of trenchless as well. So I guess in terms of just overall park impacts, we're going to have that staging area set up in the large field. 24 total trees are going to be removed. So of that, 18 of them are invasive Norway maple. Every other one is basically 9 inches or smaller. So we're spending quite a bit to do a lot of trenchless installation to minimize the tree removal as much as possible. Unfortunately, given the lay of this area, we're following the low spot. We took a hard look very early in this project on whether we could possibly put the sewer anywhere else. It really wasn't an option. The trail that's in the park is going to be closed during sewer installation. Westwood, kind of right up against the playground and the basketball court, is going to be closed for a period of time. But like I said, we're not actually going to be impacting that area, even though we're going under it with the sewer. And in terms of schedule, we're looking, so contractors on board, we're looking at starting this project here in April. It's going to be kind of in terms of the park, pretty slow ramp up, but we will be setting up basically that fenced staging area. So all that will be a fenced area, so anyone using the park can't actually get into it. That staging area will stay there all year. The actual open cut construction and work that goes through the park, I anticipate that would basically be like June to September this year. And then the project itself would be wrapped up at the end of the year. So I guess with that, I will open it up to any questions. I could certainly go into some details on various areas if you have any questions. So,
Chris, thank you so much for that presentation. I appreciate it. I'm curious to know why, so this has been in the works since 2000, did you say? When was the last time you said you presented on this project?
Yeah, yes, you are correct. 2000. This project originally started March 2000. Bad time to start a project with a lot of public engagement. But yes, what happened with the project and why it got why we're 3-4 years later here is
2020. Did you mean 2020?
Or sorry, 2020, yes.
Okay. All right. I got you now. All right.
Yeah. 3-4 years later, we had to get a lot of easements for this project. So outside of the park area, this sewer is through there's an existing sanitary sewer, but a lot of it didn't have existing easements. So there was a lot of coordination with private property owners to get everything ready to be able to proceed. So that process has been dragging out over the past several years. We're finally ready to move forward. So.
Gotcha. Yep. Certainly the pandemic played a role in that whole engagement process.
Yep.
Anne, go ahead.
Yeah, so do I understand like the playground and basketball court will actually be open during most of this project, or will they also be closed off?
No, we're pretty much going to be able to leave that open for the entirety of this work. There may be and when we get to that, closer to that period of time, and I'm able to coordinate with the contractor, I mean, there may be a short period of time when we're actually out in Westwood where we're just in such close proximity that we don't want to risk any issues. But otherwise, those areas remain open. Basically, we're going to install the sewer under those areas with a method called jack and bore, and basically push the sewer 15 feet underground under those areas. So on the surface, you actually don't know anything's actually going in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Other questions for Chris? All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining today. We really appreciate the update, and I'm glad to see the project finally going forward after all this time. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I believe we have one more presentation, and it is from Josh, and it's on our budget today.
Yeah, give me just a second to get all of this figured out.
Sure thing.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a relatively short presentation. FY25 is the second year of the budget process. So a year ago, we presented a pack the FY24 and anticipated budget for FY25 that wasn't approved by council because they can only approve 1 year at a time. But what it did do is get things in line. So this one is a little bit shorter. We will have in April a much more in-depth look at the budget and the numbers associated with it. But basically the timeline, we were approved the plan in 25 was presented. We spent November, December evaluating where we were at in 24, what we were looking to need in FY25, and developing between financial staff, administration, and park staff, kind of some draft impacts that we thought were worth sharing with the administrator. We are presenting those draft impacts to PAC today, based on conversations with the administrator. And from this conversation, we will come back to PAC for a recommendation on any fee changes, as well as the overall budget in April. And then City Council will take action on fees and the administrator's proposed budget in May. So kind of gives you the timeline on that. What we found from a revenue standpoint over the last year, or last 6 months of the start of FY24, as mentioned by the pool staff, our programming, and not just at pools but at rinks, at a variety of things, continue to have interest and demand in what we offer. As Gail and Carly and Scott mentioned, having swim lessons and private swim lessons, having the numbers that we do is a credit to the work that we did during the pandemic, to provide people with a safe environment to come and participate in. And we continue to see that continued move towards normalcy. I don't know that we'll ever be normal again, but the reality is that the numbers are getting closer and closer to what they were in FY19 and 18 before the pandemic hit. Golf continues to see, it has been the thing through the pandemic. It was presented recently. In FY19 or in FY20, golf was at a $1.1 million operation. This year, we're forecasting it to be a $1.9 million operation. So, between those, it is something that continues. This community, in Ann Arbor, continue to see value to, and with that increases concessions and sales of inventory there. As we mentioned, our day camps, have been nearly 100% every week that we offer. We are going to be registering here in the beginning of April. Delivery camps have always been full pretty much day one. Now Buer and Fuller camps are typically full by the end of the first week of registration. Again, that is a credit to the staff that are doing the work, and providing the environment for people. And so we continue to see that growing and how we can support that. And then again, deliveries are extremely popular. We will see probably this year impacts to the revenue just because there's continued use of personal devices. And then there's a lot of construction near livery points. The bridge at Gallup, the Barton Nature Area, and Pathway. Those are all going to create opportunities that could impact revenue as we head into FY25. From a funding, or from a sorry, that should be expenses. From an expense standpoint, a couple of things that we have seen. In 2022, we saw the increase to living wage for all temp employees, and that has been a wonderful thing for our staff and for our operations. It allows us to have staff coming in as a first choice as opposed to a last resort. So all of our facilities see more applicants on the front end, and can be more selective. However, with higher wages, it kind of varies based on where people come in at. So we've seen a little bit higher wage expenses than budgeted, just because budgeting that increase was a little bit was not as precise as we could have been. But again, we've had a lot of people moving in different positions. We've also spent some time reviewing our organization org chart to identify what are our needs moving forward and opportunities. And coming out of the pandemic, we've seen some of our full-time staff and some of our operation require more overtime than we had originally planned for. So we've seen an increase there. And just like at everybody's home, supply costs continue to go up. It costs more to buy things that we were buying a year ago or 2 years ago. And because we have more participants, it's harder for us to not utilize some of those those supplies. So we're seeing that needing more and it costing more to run the programs the same way that we have in the past. So coming out of those reviews, what we saw were four kind of impacts that were presented to the administrator. One of which was the understanding that there was a need for an additional recreation supervisor in our department. All of our rec supervisors, such as Gail and Carly and Sarah and Joe Anderson, all the ones that come before you, do an excellent job. But in the 6 years prior to my taking over, our FTE was a net zero growth in the Parks Department. So we added one FTE and we took one away in the 6 years prior to me taking over. We have seen a number of positions. We've added a couple of positions through the millage side, but really the recreational facility operations were not getting the support that they were needing. So we were able to do something with Sarah Stewart to provide an opportunity for her to support the overall organization, which would then open up the position at Veterans for an additional staff person there. And the way we were able to look at this is all of our rec supervisors have a percentage of money. All of our staff kind of work in both the general fund and the millage. And that has been based on kind of a historical way. We were able to adjust some inconsistency with those percentages to free up money in the general fund by pushing it into the millage. It's not the best way to do it, but it's a way that we can be consistent across top to bottom. As I mentioned with the supplies, there's a number of expenses that we just needed to adjust to the reality. Some of those things continue to be, supply costs, as far as concession items, as far as chemicals for the pools, things that we need to do that continue to kind of be higher than anticipated. And so again, the cost of those items plus the quantity that we have to use just has increased. We have come to the end of a number of fleet vehicles. So some of the maintenance vehicles, some of the trucks that staff use, we're working closely with Green Fleet, but all vehicle costs are more than what was budgeted for. So we're having a one-time cost for some of those vehicles to cover the difference between what we've paid into the fleet fund and what their actual costs are. And then the last thing, when we spoke last year, we had anticipated not having fee adjustments probably until FY26. But with the things that we had going on, with the opportunity to potentially add another staff person, we took a look at a couple fees that we felt were a little outdated, so that there's an understanding that it's not just magically moving some funds from one fund to another to create positions. But if we're going to add staff, we want to find opportunities to address some of those fees as well. So those are the four kind of areas. The fee adjustments, the adult hockey leagues, one of those things, as I mentioned during the swim side, our basic swim lessons are life-saving skills. Playing adult hockey or adult sports in our department is a choice. And I feel like we should make sure that those individuals that are making those choices have the pay more for those that we provide the service for. So additionally, the adult hockey leagues have not seen an increase from roughly 2009. So it's time that we kind of look at those. We've talked briefly. Swim team is another situation where there has not been an increased fee probably since 2011. And so it is well outdated in that cost. So when looking around, we probably are 75 to 100% lower than what we could double our price and still be competitive, but we're not looking to do that. We're looking to take some incremental changes with that. Swim lessons is another one. As we've seen in the increase, it is a very staff-intensive process. And because we have increased with living wage, we need to make sure that those operations are compatible. And then the last one, which is going to be a very small one, we have two types of unsanctioned bridge programs. One's unsanctioned and one is sanctioned. The unsanctioned one, which is just basically a learn to play, a pretty relaxed one, again, hasn't seen a fee increase in a significant, probably 10 years. And there's going to be a minimal like $1 or $2 for non-member change with that one. So very, very small, but just trying to ensure that we're covering some of our costs in there during this time. So that was all really kind of driven towards the general fund. The millage fund, as we approach a vote on the millage here in November, we anticipate seeing a small increase in the millage as property values increase. And the only real changes for the millage fund is just the impacts tied to the adjustments for the recreation supervisor and the non-recurring vehicle costs for vehicles that are paid for out of the millage fund. So my expectation a year ago is that we were going to come into this meeting and say everything's going to be exactly the same. And our focus is in 26 to have this big overhaul where we truly review all of our fees. But between finance and administration, I was told that we have a few things that we need to address this year. And we have an opportunity to add staffing. But everyone who was not mentioned earlier will be reviewing fees and expenses over this year. You know, we understand that it is our job to provide an experience for the community that is quality and that is competitive and that is as cost effective as possible. But we need to make sure that what we're providing meets those needs and we evaluate those at times. We also have been spending the last 6 months kind of taking looks at different scholarship programs because we know that that is something that we can do better in parks and have staff that are very excited about putting that together and having a better program to ensure that those who want to participate can participate. But we will I anticipate having a full proposal on a new scholarship program probably late in 2024 in preparation for any potential fee adjustments for FY26 and beyond. So that is, like I said, it's an overview of what we're hoping to do. Will be a much deeper dive into numbers and specifics associated with it. But I'm happy to answer any questions about our budget, the process, and what we're thinking moving forward. So.
Thanks so much, Josh. When do you anticipate the deeper dive happening? Just to get a sense of the timing on it.
So it will happen in April, and what I will do is PAC will be able to we'll get information out to PAC earlier than we normally do, just so that you can review it. So my hope would be a lot of it's close, but early April would be there. So.
Got it. Okay. So we're identifying the issues now and then looking at numbers next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions for Josh? Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have 2 questions. The first is, here we go. Is there going to be a budget narrative that is included to PAC? Like anything that helps us explain the numbers we're looking at?
I will definitely work on getting that and understanding where we're going with it. I think that we definitely can put that together. Yes.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
My second question is, can you please tell me a little bit more about the scholarship program? I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So what the goal for the scholarship program is having a full proposal in preparation before we go to the next set of budgeting. We've been working through that. Our scholarship program has historically been a passive, for lack of a better term. Anyone that comes to us, we're really welcoming to it. We don't have a funding source for it. We don't have a program that really defines what it can be. And so I think that we're looking at other organizations, seeing what, some nonprofits, what the school districts are doing, and being able to figure out how we can fund and move that forward. So for this year, there is not a new proposal for it, because we want to make sure that we do something that will be right for the years to come, and that can really be more proactive in how we do it. We will continue. Anyone who applies, anyone who comes in that meets our criteria, we will work with them and provide those opportunities. But I think we can have a holistic look at a scholarship program that is much more engaged and intentional, and hopefully easier for people to participate in.
Go ahead, Anne.
Thanks so much for the presentation today. Looking forward to seeing some of the more detailed numbers next month. Do you anticipate that, it seems like, as always, the pressures on the budget are there. Do you anticipate any fewer projects that might have been planned or anticipated in 25, financial year 25, because of some of the increases in your other expenses?
So appreciate the question. And, obviously we are later today, we are asking for the ADA report to be adopted. We heard last month about the asset management study that'll be coming through. The number of projects that we will need to do is not going to get smaller. How we fund those is going to become more challenging. The majority of our capital projects and a lot of our maintenance for our facilities comes from the millage. And the reality is we're fortunate to have a millage that's about $7.5 million. Of that, between $2 and $2.5 million goes to capital funding. And so every time that we have to pay a little bit into to pay for a new fleet truck or maintenance vehicle or staffing increases, all of that can potentially shrink down that money that we have for capital projects or for maintenance. So we are trying to find the right projects to do in the coming years with the funds that we know we have available, with what we anticipate coming about. What we hope in 2025 is we have fewer surprises. The walls at vets, leaking, the $500,000 that we had to invest into that was not expected. But it was a priority that we had to take care of to remain operational. The farmers market that Adam presented on last month was not an expected expense in our timelines. So the fewer of those unexpected ones, the more we can move forward. But we're going to be balanced to figure that out. Those are the bigger costs that we have to address compared to the some of the increases that we see with some of the cost of supplies and the fleet vehicles. They chip into it, but we those are the bigger things that we can't control. So hopefully that answered what you were looking for.
Other questions for Josh on the budget? All right, Josh, thanks so much for that. I know that we'll revisit it again soon.
Yep.
And I think we're going to head back to you in the next section here, which is your report as the manager. So
sounds great. Yeah, I will be brief. This week was great weather-wise for Buer. It's its final week, so having cold weather at Buer for its final week is nice. We have less concerns about the ice when it is this type of temperature. But for the golf courses for Huron Hills, which is open, it wasn't probably as nice for them. But Bureau will be closing on Sunday. A great season. Carly did a great job over there. But it kind of begins that process of going from winter to spring for that. Registration for our summer day camps begins on April 3rd at 8 a.m. Families and individuals can register at a2gov.org/parks register. And again, we anticipate those filling up quickly. As I mentioned over the weekend, council last night approved accepting the $1 million grant from the MEDC, which is great. Park staff would like to thank Senator Irwin for his support of this project. There is still a lot of fundraising to do. So anyone who is interested in donating can reach out to myself or Adam Furco to learn out how to support. So I want to thank the anonymous donor that sent $50 to the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation today that we received. So every dollar helps. We would like to get a few bigger ones in there for that. And then the last thing, there's been a lot of discussion about it, but the community should see more regular construction work taking place at the Gallup Bridge. A number of the setbacks and the back and forth on where it could be and the challenges have been addressed. And so we should be seeing construction on a regular basis out there in the coming days or weeks. So looking forward to getting that project completed as soon as possible. So with that's what I got.
All right, thank you very much. Questions on the manager's report? All right, moving on, we'll do committees. I know we don't have RAP today. Anne, is there anything from the Environment Committee?
Nothing. We haven't met since our last PAC meeting. We meet next week.
All right, thanks. Any other committee reports? I don't think so, but I'm just gonna check. Okay. We'll move along now to our new business. We have two resolutions that we're going to consider today. The first, as just mentioned by Josh a moment ago, is that we recommend adoption of the ADA report. And we've got Adam. Hi, Adam.
Hi.
He's here to talk about that. So whenever you are ready, sir, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Lauren. Juliet, could you promote Jesus as well? I am here to talk today about the resolution that's in front of you, which is recommending adopting the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's our transition plan for Ann Arbor Parks. We have Jesus Lardizabal, which I probably pronounced your last name wrong. Sorry, Chewy. He's with Altura Solutions, our consultant on the ADA transition plan. Just a quick update, a timeline. So we came and presented to PAC at December and went through the plan. You should have received kind of all of the plan and all the appendices that came with it and an Excel sheet that you could explore. So we're here today for the resolution to adopt that and answer any questions that you might have. In addition, we'll be going to the Commission on Disability Issues following PAC, so we'll be at their April 17th meeting. And then pending your recommended adoption, we will be going to City Council, hopefully at the May 1st meeting for that resolution. So a quick overview, if you weren't here in December. So what we've been doing over the last couple years is working on our ADA transition plan. So we had Altura as our consultant. They did a analysis of all of our parks, our nature areas, our facilities to find any physical barriers, physical ADA barriers, and identify those. Altura also took a look at all of our PSAs, which are our programs, services, and activities that we supply, and tried to take a look at those to make sure that those meet our requirements. Our report in the end, it was quite large. The findings, I think there was around 2,000 pages in that PDF. So if you didn't get through all of them, that's understandable. What we came away with was roughly around a $19 million commitment over the next 30 years to bring all of those findings into compliance. And what we plan on doing is kind of trying to align those ADA findings and pair those with other project needs that we have coming up. They'll work really well with this asset management plan that we have coming. So we'll have our ADA study, we'll have our asset management plan. We can begin to kind of pair things up so that we're kind of being more efficient and spending money correctly and making sure that we get these things taken care of. You know, we've already had 4 kind of projects that have been impacted by this study, so I just want to highlight them quickly. Right, we're going to be doing the Barton Nature area, the accessible paved trail through there, and so there was a commitment in the report to make a percentage of nature areas accessible, so that's helping with that. During the construction at the Argo livery restrooms and site improvements, we were able to identify several things during construction that we were able to take care of. For Bicentennial Park, the upcoming project that we have, I think nearly all of the ADA barriers will be corrected in that project. There's a few to another playground that we're not touching, and those will be corrected in the next few years when that playground gets replaced. And then we also have a project at Almendinger taking a look at our sidewalks and walks through the park to ensure compliance on there. So we're working on that one as well. So with that, I just kind of like to open up the floor for any questions that you might have for myself or for Chewy. I can kind of handle more administrative stuff. Chewy will be able to kind of speak on any of the actual ADA findings or the report. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Adam or Chewy? Anne, go ahead.
Not so much a question, just I just want to say thank you for this report. It was very, very thorough. I was kind of taken aback when I saw more than 2,000 issues that need to be addressed. And I mean, sort of a question here, more for informational purposes, but just you know, is that typical of a park system of our size?
Yes, it is. And you know, when you consider that some of your parks predated the ADA, so the ADA came into effect in 1991. So think of everything that predates that. And then we say that our findings are kind of like a credit report. We're only picking out all the bad things. You're not going to get credit for everything you've done right. We're only for the things that are not correct. So it might have been correct at some point, and somebody relocated a shelf and now made it a barrier. So even ongoing maintenance can sometimes make these issues. So yeah, it's a capture in time of what isn't correct and or a barrier, but it's something that can be addressed over time. Just like it took time to get us there, it's going to take time to get us back out. But unfortunately, yes, these types of barriers they were identified, we see all across the country for other park systems.
Thank you. Yeah, like I took a look at more closely at like my neighborhood park, which is Virginia Park, and like even things like, the wood chips under the playground moving over time, and the path settling over time. It seemed like this is sort of an ongoing project to keep parks ADA compliant. They might be ADA compliant at one point, kind of like you said, but then over time you need to maintain that.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a perfect example of something that's compliant, maybe when it's installed or the project is completed, but over time through wear and tear, they come out of compliance. And so maintaining it is an issue. It's an ongoing issue. So even though we completed this project, there's a quote by Justin Dart, who's seen as the father of the ADA, who says, ADA is not the solution. It's the foundation on which solutions will be built. So now we have this transition plan in place, and this gives us the framework on which to build those solutions moving forward.
I see Teresa with a hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Anne's sentiment. I thought the report was really thorough, and I really appreciated, access to all the different appendices. I was wondering, I really enjoyed looking at the public input survey summary. And I was wondering if you could just comment a little bit on the response to that, if you were satisfied with the amount of response in the survey, and if that's typical for, a municipality this size.
Yes, turnout and input was actually better than what we've seen for other municipalities this size. I'm in Austin, and I think Austin and Ann Arbor share a lot of things. One of them is the involvement of the public. But even in Austin, when you talk about accessibility, it tends not to be one of the hot topic issues that people come out and either speak for or against. But the input that we did receive was good. The city really helped us. Adam, in fact, helped us put up a pin map where people could go leave comments about a particular park or a particular program. And I think that really gave us a lot of input that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So thank you again, Adam, for you and your staff's work and helping us do that, because we held traditional open houses and we had some people show up, but not as much as we wanted to. But doing this hybrid online system with the city's help really brought out a lot of input, which we're grateful for.
That's wonderful to hear. Other questions for Adam or Chewy? All right, or a motion to approve the resolution. Anne.
Sorry, I just had one further question, actually, more for Josh. If in adopting this report with I believe it was $19 million estimated cost for bringing our system up to ADA standards, are we saying that we are obligating that sum of money over a period of time? Or are we primarily accepting the findings of the report and kind of, what we do with it is TBD?
Well, I mean, I think there's an answer in between that. We are accepting what the report is and understanding that we are responsible for addressing the concerns that are raised by those and making those there. As it's spoken about in the resolution a little bit, we are going to focus on what we can do with our normal planning. So as Adam mentioned, the Barton Mandelmere, all of our projects, we're going to highlight what we can check off on those while we have limited funding. The next part of it is going to be, how do we address that roughly $1 million a year that is underfunded for the remaining 25 years of this that we have to address. So as a program, as a community, we are committing to addressing the ADA barriers in the next 30 years. How we pay for it is not what we're recommending today, because that plan isn't there. It is that this is a plan that we have to address, and staff and council and administration have to figure out where that funding comes from, what are grants available, what are the different things that we're going to do over that period of time. So to answer the questions, we are committing to doing the work and committing to figuring out how do we pay for it over that time, but not committing to this is the plan to pay for it.
Then I would be happy to move that we accept these recommendations.
So I think we have a procedural issue, and I
Yeah.
think that is that Tisha Montague is having some connecting problems, and she makes us a quorum. So we can't move the resolution until she rejoins the meeting. I believe, or we can't pass it at least. So we'll say that Anne has made the motion, and I think we can take a second so we can sort of tee things up. But is there a second, Therese? Perfect. And why don't we can sort of tee this up and see if Commissioner Montague is able to rejoin us. at which point we can have a vote.
Right.
Is she on her way back in, do you know?
I mean, I know she's struggling with it. I'm trying to connect with it, so
Sounds good. All right, well, we can kind of keep this on the table, but we can perhaps introduce the second resolution before us at this point, and hopefully we will have Commissioner Montague back online for the votes as we go through. But the second resolution before us is one to recommend Davy Tree on a contract, and we have Scott Spooner here to discuss that one with us. Scott,
Yes.
you want to say a couple words about that one?
Sure. In 2023, we put out a request for proposals for routine park tree pruning and park forestry services. We received 3 bids, and staff evaluated the bids. And we came up with, after the review and scoring of the bids and the pricing, we decided that Davy Tree experts were the best company to go forward with. It is a contract not to exceed $450,000 per year. And it is a 1-year contract with up to 4 renewals, each renewal not to exceed $450,000. A little background: in 2018, park operations was a part of Public Works, and then it came over into parks, and the park operations side came over. Up until that point, when for the most part, when trees needed to be pruned or removed for any reason, we would contact city forestry, and they would do that for us, and they would bill us for their time. Unfortunately, it was one of those things where we were never the priority for the forestry crews. And so when park operations came over to Parks and Recreation, that amount of money came back to parks, and we decided at that point to go with an outside contract instead of having it in-house with city forestry. This will be hopefully the 3rd contract we have gone through with Davy Tree Expert Company, and they are also the company that the city forestry services use to do routine street tree pruning. So they're very familiar with the city and the standards that we're expecting of them.
All right, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Does anybody have questions for Scott on the resolution regarding Davy Tree? Okay, well, we're still having our procedural issues, so we can't quite move forward with the resolution at this point. Should we try to tee this one up with a motion and second as well and see if we can get Commissioner Montague back for a vote? All right, well, let's see. Do I have a motion to approve? Rachel, thank you very much. Is there a second? Therese, thank you so much. And then I think now, unless there's further discussion on either of the 2 resolutions, we can take a pause and see if we can get our 5th.
yeah, I'm working.
Josh, is there a phone number that we could provide her so that she
Yeah,
can...
I've sent that to her as well. I've tried a couple different ones, so I'm getting there. Hold on. She's trying. Working hard. Just trying.
It occurs to me that one thing we could do also is have our second, oh, hang on. I think we have a caller on. I wonder if that's Commissioner Montague. Commissioner Montague, is that you?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad you were able to rejoin. We have two resolutions. The first is, as you know, to recommend adoption of the ADA report, which I believe was moved by Anne and seconded by Therese.
Support.
All right, so I think all that remains is for me to say all in favor, please signal by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Wonderful, motion carries. And the second resolution is to recommend the contract with Davy Tree, which Scott shared with us. I may need to be reminded who moved and who seconded. I apologize. Oh, it was Rachel who moved, I believe, and Therese seconded. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signal by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Wonderful, motion carries. Commissioner Montague, thank you so much. I know you've been struggling with your communication today, and we really appreciate you being able to rejoin. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We've arrived now at our second public comment period. If we have any callers on the phone, we'd invite them to join us at this time.
We have no callers at this time.
All right, no callers. And with that, I believe communications are in your packet. And we now stand adjourned. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Take care.
Thank you.